Hello, everybody. Welcome to the She Can Say It podcast. My name is Erica Burnett, and I'm the founder of the podcast. Right now, we're going to talk, well, not right now, but today we're going to talk about the inner critic. So, first, I want to introduce my guest, Miss Sheila A. Olive. Hi, Miss Sheila.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Absolutely. I'm actually Apostle Dr. Sheila Olive, and I am the founder and CEO of the Birthing Room Ministries International, which is a workshop ministry. And what we do is we partner with ministries all across the country and also around the world. This is a global movement to free people into their purpose and into their destiny. And I also oversee a number of other ministries as advisor, senior advisor, overseer, and um, busy as a mom, grandmom. Have I work in the finance industry, so I wear many hats.
Your plate is definitely full.
Definitely,
Definitely
definitely full. Yes,
lot going on there,
yes,
especially your ministry, which is really important because we do need ministry. We do need, to help others and stuff like that, especially when we receive the information and the tools that are necessary to pass them on is wonderful. So that's great.
yes, absolutely.
We're gonna dive right on in.
Okay.
Topic is the inner critic, and it's
Yes.
why we're so hard on ourselves, which I'm sure we can all identify with that self-talk about, doubting ourselves, whether or not we can do something well, whether it will be well received, whether we're going to mess it up and that wasn't good enough, all that stuff. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm sure everyone who watches this video can identify with that voice in their minds that is very doubtful of our skill set, of our ability to handle things. So my first question is, what is the inner critic?
Well, we've heard of food critics, we've heard of movie critics, and your inner critic is just a little person, just like a food critic or a movie critic, who sits and who sits and determines whether or not what you're doing is good enough. And oftentimes, it's contrary to what's actually happening. Um, it's that little voice that judges, demeans, or produces negative self talk. And it's often driven by internalized early criticism that we've heard in, about, and over our lives. And so if you hear a narrative, a negative narrative, long enough, you will adopt that negative narrative. And so that negative narrative heard repeatedly then becomes your inner critic.
Wonderful. That, you know what, and that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're born into environments that breed that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is, I don't know if you've heard of the term like crabs in a barrel, where
Yes.
everyone's pulling the other one down to get to the top, and no one wants to their spot stolen. And we don't realize
Mm-hmm.
there's enough room for everybody. So we just pull at one another and pull each other down with the talk and the negativity and all that stuff. And it's just a repeated cycle. So that's your environment absolutely plays a huge role in the.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one which is kind of not even your environment. It's like being ignored. too.
Yes.
Go to a safe
Yes.
environment, you can be ignored.
Right.
And sometimes when you're ignored, that's the worst because it's like now I don't feel as though I'm worthy of being heard
Yes.
at all. And we carry that weight around in us, and all of a sudden we just stop talking, we crawl into a little shell,
Mhm.
don't want to be. And I think that's where most people who are introverts,
Yes.
I think it has something to do with that.
Yes.
With
When
that.
you're not heard, you actually create your own internal narrative. You adopt you fill that unheard space, that silence, with a story. And oftentimes that story is as well not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not true about you. It's not true about your environment. We know that our parents did the best they could with what they had in
Mm-hmm.
their day and in their time. Well, you know, they may not have had um, you know, um, a psychological background. They didn't read Dr. Spock, I'm sure. And um, so, they didn't come, um, they didn't raise us with a lot of therapeutic or psychological knowledge. And so they used what they had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And many times they were busy trying to make a living and support and put a roof over our heads. So there was not a lot of time in some households for a lot of love and affection. Okay. For instance, my dad worked two jobs. One of those jobs was overnight. So he would work at night, come home, go to sleep, and then go to his day job.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't much time for personal interaction with him. We may have passed each other like ships in the night. There was no animosity, but there was no real communication either. There was no sitting down at the table because oftentimes during dinner time he was at work.
Wow.
So that there was no real fault in that
Mm-hmm.
because he was providing a living to meet the needs for his family.
Mm-hmm.
And then in other households, we know that there was may have been abuse, there may have been molestation, there may have been other negative factors that cause the child to feel like their needs weren't met.
Mm-hmm.
And if their unmet needs, cause um, children to create narratives because children are very imaginative. And so they easily create stories to fill the needs portion of their life. So, and can you imagine that being done over and over again for the first 18 years of their life? And then all of a sudden, they are now adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go out into the corporate world or they go out into society and they're met with emotional and psychological challenges. And so the only tools they have is what they've learned in these dysfunctional households.
Mm-hmm.
And so they in turn react dysfunctionally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Everything you said, I completely agree. I was born into a fatherless home. I was raised by a single mother, my brother.
Mhm. Yes.
So of course, she was both parents. She was mom, dad. She provided, food on the table, helped us with homework. She did all of it.
Mhm.
on her own. And so it wasn't a lot of time to sit down and just have fun. Don't get me wrong, we did go out, you know,
Mhm.
and she exposed us to a lot of different things and she made sure we were well-rounded
Mhm.
growing up. And she just said she didn't have the time. By the time she came in the door, it was get dinner on the table, make sure we were doing our homework, make sure we got our night clothes on and we got into bed early enough so we could get a good night's sleep, whether or not she stayed up until midnight or not. She made sure that we were on a specific schedule so she can get everything done. So there wasn't a whole a lot of compassion and a lot of I want to say softness and love,
Mhm.
all the emotional stuff is because she was focused on making sure she took care of her children and that they had everything they needed. And she was tired.
Mhm.
She was tired. She was handling everything of two people on her own. So we didn't have
Mhm.
like a lot of the attention that we may have wanted and all of that stuff. And like you said, we create narratives, we create stories within our own minds, but also we go out and we try and find the void that we're not getting at home. So
Right.
not only internal, it can be external too, but I know we're focused on
Yes.
the inner critic, but that inner critic is sometimes will tell you, you're missing something. It's
Right.
not going on here. So since you're missing something here, we need to get it for you, regardless of how you get it.
Mhm. And oftentimes, when that happens, young people find themselves attaching themselves to the wrong thing,
Yeah.
to the wrong thing, because
Mhm.
their lack of knowledge, their innocence, their vulnerability just creates a magnet for all kinds of negative behaviors.
Mhm.
People who are users, people who are abusers, then are attached to these people who are vulnerable and who are looking for something to fill their void, to help them with that inner critic, help quiet that calm, that inner critic in their lives.
Mhm.
But what they're actually doing is compounding the problem.
You're right, because you know what, like attracts like is not the right example, but you do attract what's in you.
Hmm.
So people gravitate, and I've heard, like certain, not certain, but a lot of like psychologists and things like that on TV explain that, and they said it's almost like a shark smelling blood in the water.
Yes.
People are drawn to, and they can see it in you. When there's a void in you, other people can see that, and they can
Hmm.
clearly see it, and you may not know that you even have the void.
Hmm.
Attract certain people and you're like, well, why do I keep attracting the same person but with a different face? They act exactly the
Hmm.
same people keep coming into my life, and you're like, and you never really understand what's going on, and then you finally have like you might see something on television or someone may say something to you that will say, well, wait a minute, let me look back at this. You know what I mean? Let me see
Right.
what's going on. But yeah, it does. You do attract what's in you, whether it's missing or something that's broken in you. You do attract
Hmm.
the same type of people. And like you said, it compounds it because they're broken too. So now you have two broken people coming together and it just is a hot mess. That's
Yes.
all I can say. It becomes a hot mess.
Right. It becomes a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
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 Yes.
So the next part that, I wanted to discuss was why are women especially hard on themselves? And which we are, we're very hard on ourselves.
I think women have a tendency to be hard on themselves because women are natural multitaskers. We have the ability to do multiple things at one time and can be very effective at those things.
Mhm.
But in turn, um, as we're doing the things that are on our plate, Um, Having the ability to be in more than one space at one time. Um, there are times when we may be affected by um, our schedules. We may be tired. We may have been agitated by the kids in the morning, getting them off to school. So we carry those emotions because women are also very emotional.
Mhm.
We carry those emotions into our day. So they become our companions
Mhm.
as we go into our day. So if there's something that's not done just to our standard, because we also hold ourselves to a high standard, and I'm talking about myself. Let me just bring this home so that you can really understand it. So I work in a corporate job, and I raise a special needs child, and I also oversee several community campaigns that service young people, teaching them financial literacy, and also overseeing ministries. Okay, so there, I got a lot on my plate.
Mhm.
But in all of it, I want to do good and I want to put my best foot forward. So if in the morning, my morning is off or skewed, my son and I, may not see eye to eye on an outfit or something just that simple. You know, it can create a little agitation, and that agitation is like a snowball that's going downhill. It gathers things as it goes.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm in the office, or I work from home. So I'm in a meeting. Something doesn't go right. Somebody misunderstands or misconstrues something I'm trying to communicate in the meeting. There's that snowball coming right at me.
Mhm.
So I think um, what we need to learn to do as women is, first of all, start our day with quiet moments.
Mhm.
Start our day with affirmations, because you need some kind of tool, a shovel, a stick, something to fight that snowball
Right.
that's eventually going to find you at some point during the day. And quiet times, affirmations, morning prayers, morning devotions, those things are tools that help us maintain a sense of stability and help us not to, you know, allow our inner critic to our steal the good parts of our day or our accomplishments.
Mhm.
And so that's something I would highly recommend. And don't be so hard on yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Give yourself the same grace that you're giving everybody else. We have a tendency to be very forgiving of other people, but
Mhm.
not so forgiving of ourselves.
Mhm. Absolutely. You are absolutely right about that. We will just, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. We'll tell anybody, girlfriends, sisters, whomever, oh,
Mhm.
it's not that bad, we'll work it out, you'll get over it, it's cool. But when it
Mhm.
comes to us, we stew all day long, sometimes 2 days, and we just keep going back to that same thing that we think we did so terrible at, or we made a mistake and we don't forgive ourselves for the one little mistake that was fixed already. We just keep going over. How could I have done that? How could
Right,
I have made that mistake? Easy. You're human. That's why you made the mistake.
right.
But also, a lot of times, expectations of other people.
Mhm.
because other people will sit and they will place these expectations on you.
Mhm.
And when you don't meet or you fall short maybe one step of the expectations that they put on you, and then they're all in your ear doing this. I can't believe you let that fall through. I can't. And we don't, I mean, I'm at the point now where I would say, believe it, because I made a mistake. Okay. So,
Right.
and I've learned how to, but it takes work to learn how to do that and not allow the world at large to say, this is how you're supposed to operate.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, this is what causes women with the high blood pressure and high, yeah, and sickness and headaches and we're stressed out and cancer and stuff like that. And people don't realize
Mhm.
stress, which is high. When you have high expectations, when you put your expectation on someone else and you press them like that, it causes stress.
Yes.
And stress can cause many illnesses and things like that. And I think one of the main ones is cancer.
Mhm.
You got a lot of folks walking around here who are sick, and it's not from what they've eaten. It's not from
Mhm.
any from stress, from people
Mhm.
putting all this stuff on their backs, saying this is how you're supposed to be, and then they take that on. We take that on, and as you know, we're trying to accomplish, like get an award for it or something like that, and we just keep on going and wear ourselves out and wonder why a lot of our sisters are miserable,
Mhm.
unhappy and stuff like that. It's because we haven't learned how to shed a lot of that stuff that people put
Right.
on us, and not even to take it and say, no, 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 you're not going to put this on me.
Mhm.
We're human, and we have to learn how, like you said, give ourselves some grace and learn to step back and say, no, that is your idea for me. It's not my idea for me. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in Black communities, like you said, stress creates high cortisol, which creates high cholesterol, which creates high blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
which affects our kidneys, which creates diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn, our body isn't filtering um, um, the waste properly. And so in turn, you have the propensity for high rates of cancer in
Mm-hmm.
our communities. And so it's all because we're carrying unresolved issues.
Mm-hmm.
We're carrying responsibilities that we don't need to carry, that don't belong to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to learn, we need to teach ourselves how to rest. I lived in Europe for a number of years, and the wonderful thing about Europeans is they know how to rest. They know how to take vacations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at least 1 week a month, they are on vacation, and they take the month of August off.
Oh,
That's a holiday month.
wow.
And so in here in the United States, we have to we tend to work until we retire, and then after we retire, we die.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so
Mm-hmm.
um we need to teach ourselves how to rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, you're right. United States, we over here working ourselves to death.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I've heard story after story where people retire and then weeks later they're in the hospital, and then you hear they at like a month after that they pass away.
Right.
And
Right.
they haven't even been retired for like not even a half a year. And they're
Right.
gone.
Because they build their purpose around what they do on their job.
Mm-hmm.
They really have no life other than what they do at work. They have no passions, no hobbies, no other interests, and their jobs are typically stressful. And they don't even get a reward at retirement anymore. Remember back in the old days, years and years ago, that you used to get a gold watch, a
Mhm,
certificate, this, that, the other, to reward you for
mhm,
your years of service. And also, you could see progression in your career and development on your job at that time.
mhm,
Here now, we fight for for progression. We fight for career development. We fight for promotions because they think programs that certain minorities in the workforce,
mhm,
you're not worthy of that promotion, that elevation. Oh well, you're a diversity hire, or no.
mhm, mhm,
No, I have the same degree as, the man sitting next to me, have the same knowledge and expertise, and I'm maybe more, um, I have a greater ability to communicate and create relationships than my coworker, my colleague. So how you need to weigh the pros and cons.
mhm,
And so, our our work here, has become our life, and
mhm.
it shouldn't be. We should learn how to live. We should learn how to take vacations, spend time with our families, and all of that. Going back to your original subject matter, all of that will fulfill us, and it will numb the inner critic.
Absolutely. That means it takes a lot of work to get yourself to that point. A whole lot of work has to be put in, and it has to be repeated. It has to be conscious, repeated work to get that inner critic to hush up a bit. You know what I mean? So how do we shift from that inner critic, that self-judgment? How do we shift from that self-judgment of ourselves to just self-awareness so we can kind of step out of that little box we're in within ourselves, that inner critic?
Okay, so let's differentiate between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Self judgment breeds fear, anxiety, and cycles of depression because you're judging yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself in a in a situation. Let's look at it. Judgment happens in a courtroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a judge, there's a prosecutor, there's a defense attorney, but you're being them all, and you're being the defendant,
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility. Now that
right?
you say it, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so um we need to work and self judgment in order to turn that around. We need to understand the patterns and the behaviors that make us feel fearful and anxious and angry, and that cause us to exhibit cycles of depression. And once we identify those patterns of behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then we can begin to offset them,
Mm-hmm.
and we can begin, they're triggers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the trendy word. They're triggers. And so once we recognize things that trigger us, we can stay away from them, or we can reduce our interaction with them and reduce our stress from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm gonna add to what you just said, and we also should reduce or need to reduce the people, the external people who trigger us with that.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not only internal because,
Right,
internally, you know what you're dealing with, but then when you have people who you're surrounded and you deal with people every day, so that's something you can't
right,
help. But you can help by putting a boundary on whose behavior triggers you.
right,
I mean, it's okay to have a conversation with someone if they do something that triggers you. It's okay to say, can I talk to you for a minute?
right.
This is very sensitive matter for me. So I would
Mhm,
appreciate it if you would not XYZ in my presence.
mhm,
Now, you've already asked them to not do that behavior.
mhm,
If they continue, then this is when you have to step away and say, you know what, we had this conversation. I can see it's not, working well for you, not working well for me.
mhm.
Remove myself from that.
Right,
It's okay.
right,
A lot of times we feel bad about that. We feel that we are just because we have, our own issues, we don't feel right about what you say throwing someone away or kicking them out your life and stuff like that. Not the same thing. It's
mhm,
self-preservation. You have
mhm.
to do what is best, what is healthy and best for you. You got to walk
Right,
away. That means remove the bad behavior, remove the negative talk, remove the negative behavior, but
mhm,
also the negative people as well.
mhm, mhm. It's as simple as setting a boundary,
Mm-hmm.
setting a boundary, and like you said, addressing the behavior that causes you to judge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not your behavior. That behavior doesn't actually belong to you. But what you do is you adopt it.
Mm-hmm.
You go into court, again, a court situation, because we're talking about judgments, right?
Right.
So you go into court and you ask the judge, can I have this behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Can it legally belong to me now?
Wow.
Because I've experienced it enough that I think I want to adopt it.
Wow.
At some point, we have to break that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you said that was really good. The way we break that cycle is addressing it. Unfortunately, some things you said make me feel very uncomfortable, and I am working with myself to grow beyond that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but I need your help. And so, if after those types of vulnerable, sincere conversations, that other individual is not willing to work with you, then you have to set boundaries that protect yourself. Like you said, it's self preservation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Life is too short for
Right.
to continue that negative behavior.
Right. And now the other, we were differentiating between
Mm-hmm.
self judgment and self awareness, right?
Yes.
So self awareness is primarily about the ability to pay so much attention to yourself that you get you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I like that.
It's like an epiphany, like the
Mm-hmm.
light bulb comes on. Wow, I really am an empathetic person. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I really am a compassionate person. And sometimes we need people to tell us over and over again that, thank you for, you're a very compassionate person, or, thank you for showing sympathy for me during my a really difficult time in my life. So I believe self-awareness comes from, yes, us. We develop it, but it's aided by our interaction with people who let us know that we're good, that
Yep, it
we're
sure
good.
does.
that you're worthy,
Mm-hmm.
that you, they recognize the impact that you have had on them was positive,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
they share that with you.
mm-hmm.
And so it opens yourself up to a different way of thinking about yourself. So I think that I believe that is what self-awareness is being able to open yourself up to think about yourself in a different way than the narrative that's been painted about you.
That's a good take on it. That really is a good take. I completely agree. That is a great way to think about it. Being open,
Yes.
being now open to the possibilities of you being good and capable and all these
Mhm.
great things instead of letting that voice inside your head saying you're not and you're not capable of doing this. You're not going to do a good job. Open yourself up to the positive things and not the negative things.
Mhm.
That's a great way being open. That is a great way. That's wonderful. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said.
Here's an example. So on my job,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I'm the program director for two community initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
So, creating those initiatives, I had to interact with people who are way up on the food chain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nice, way
so,
up there.
yeah. And so I had to introduce the initiatives, express my passion, express the capability of the initiatives, what I wanted to accomplish by doing this. And it was a lot. I had to totally vet these programs all by myself.
Wow.
And so, and now because these programs have been vetted and they've won awards,
Mm.
now it's opened doors for me where most recently I was asked to sit in on a committee run by the CFO of the company.
Wow.
Now, you know, um, COVID has, you know, when we came through COVID because we were home and we were eating all the time, I gained a few pounds. And, I'm short, and, you put a few pounds on a short person, yeah, you get kind of, so I'm really conscious of, you know, my weight. And so recently had to have just a lunch meeting with the CFO. I was so intimidated
Mm.
at that meeting only because this is why my inner critic was hard at work trying to convince me why I did not belong there.
Wow. Wow.
But somewhere during the meeting, midway during the meeting, and as the CFO began to share some anecdotal stories and some information with us, I said, you know what? You need to loosen up because your name was in the invitation. They did not make a mistake. You won the award, which opened the door and allowed you to be here. And he wants you here because he wants to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't do that unless you open your mouth.
Mm.
I'm like, girl, please. You talk all the time. You know, my kids used to tell me when they were younger, Mom, you talk to trees if they listen. You know,
You talk all the time, but then you go get here at this
Right.
meeting and don't
And
say anything.
I'm sitting there, I'm being quiet and I'm just looking around, you know.
Oh my God.
So I had to counteract my inner critic. I had to tell it to sit down, like you say, sit down, shut up. You go over there in the corner and sit down
Be
because
quiet.
I have work to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I have work to do.
They don't make mistakes. Those CFOs and those
No.
CMOs and those people do not make mistakes. If they invite you somewhere,
Right.
it is intentional.
Right.
They don't play around like that. They don't have
Right.
time.
Right. So in it as a practice to become more self-aware and less self-judgmental, we need to start by paying attention to the things that rub us the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to watch out for our inner critic, like a stop sign on the street,
Mm-hmm.
and you see it and you obey it. Nothing about that sign tells you that it says other anything other than stop, right? It has the
Mm-hmm.
word stop on it. But what we recognize behind that word is the legal authority that demands us to stop at that point. And if we don't stop, there'll be consequences.
Right.
So we have to recognize what's legal and what's not legal concerning our inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the inner critic or is this me becoming self-aware? Which one is it?
Mm-hmm.
Remember those cartoons where they would have the little devil
Right on
sitting
each
on,
shoulder, the devil and the angel.
right, the little devil, the little angel. So
Uh-huh.
so which one are you, my inner critic, or is this my self-awareness, my little self-awareness angel? So we need to start recognizing which is at work, you know, in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to how others interact with us
Mm-hmm.
increases our awareness. I already said that.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down and observe the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn so much just by being quiet and paying attention to what's going on around us.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we said earlier, identify the things that trigger you.
Mm-hmm.
Become more mindful of how you speak to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you go, oh, I can't believe I do. I'm so stupid.
Yep. Yep. And that's a common one. That is a common one for people.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. You know, be careful of how you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? You're listening.
Yeah, you're the first person to hear it.
Right.
Yeah, because it's internal. So the message starts here, it starts in your heart and it starts up here before it even comes out of your mouth.
Yes.
So it's like you got to, we gotta stop talking negatively. And like you said, pay attention to everything. And people laugh at me because I tell them I'm in the house talking to myself. When something is not, if I hear something that's not right, I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if it's a movie, a video, or anything, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to a message and I hear a red flag and I say, wait a minute, what was that? What was
Mm-hmm.
that? And I'll say, okay, no, you don't need to listen to that. You don't need to listen to this nonsense. Turn it off. And
Right.
don't listen to anything like that. You do have to talk to yourself. It doesn't make you crazy to talk
No.
to yourself. You have to. It's like a fight for your life. You are fighting for your life every day. Your
Mm-hmm.
soul, you're fighting for it. Especially
Mm-hmm.
we have all these issues with mental health now.
Yes.
So people are in their minds is because there's so much negative talk and they have so many expectations placed on their brain is that now they believe that they have to operate a certain way because they didn't take the time to talk to themselves and saying, is this right? Is this my purpose? Is this for
Yes.
me? Should I be doing this? Should I be on this path? They just roll with the punches.
Right.
And they have all these expectations, all this negativity, all this stuff going ahead of them, and they don't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, they haven't taken like a breather to sit
Right.
down and just make a list. Sometimes you got to make a list.
Make a
Okay,
list.
the pros and cons. What's
Hmm.
right with this? What's wrong with it? We
Yes.
don't want to do that. And I don't know why. Some of us don't have the tools. Don't get me wrong. Some of us have not been taught. This
Yes.
stuff we had to learn. A lot of us had to learn along the way. We didn't have anybody to teach us.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's
Absolutely.
very detrimental to your mental health.
Hmm.
You definitely have to, that inner critic. It's okay to critique your work to a certain degree, to critique
Yes.
yourself to a certain degree, but you
Hmm.
don't want to get into unhealthy behavior behind it where everything is negative.
Hmm. I think a word that we should start using, even though inner critic is a trending word, I think we should
Ah,
inspect ourselves.
I'm gonna write that down, taking notes.
Hmm.
Okay.
Inspect ourselves, examine. We know from doctors as women that they tell us, make sure you get your annual exam.
Mm.
If I don't go see my doctor once a year, he tracks me down. He starts calling me.
That's a good
um,
doctor.
it's time for your annual exam, and we know we've heard constantly, make sure you do breast examinations, every month to make sure that you get ahead of any finding any lumps or anything like that. So I think if we change our narrative regarding how we interact with ourselves, we'll come out in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should quiet the critic and learn how to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
examine ourselves for the better. And if we find, because examining us causes us to, number one, have discovering what's wrong. And number two, being able to rationalize it. Okay, is it right? Is it wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with it? Where do I put it? And then
Right.
and then we can come to a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Finally we can put that away. That's not mine, so I'm going to put it in the trash even.
Right. Right.
That's not my emotion. That's an emotion that someone has pushed on me because of their insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't belong to you, if a package comes to my house but from UPS or Amazon, I'm calling them, telling them, come get this. It doesn't belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've taken on so much of what doesn't belong to us
Mm-hmm.
that we forget who we are.
Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. We think if we have to save the world.
Yes,
And that's our perception. And then when we don't do what we perceive that we're supposed to do, then we beat ourselves up.
right,
And then we allow others to beat us up and hold us to
right,
that expectation when we shouldn't have had it to begin with.
right,
Mm,
right.
yep.
And then another thing that self we need as a tool for self-awareness
Mm.
is, this is a warning, 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 like the robot. Stop comparing yourself to other people,
Yes, yes, that's a big one.
because the Bible tells us that comparison is a curse.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
if we're comparing, when God has made us each one an individual, no two people have the same fingerprints,
Mm-hmm.
uh, DNA.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson is expecting twins, And even if they're identical, they will not be the same person.
That's right. That's true.
And so we cannot waste time comparing ourselves with our neighbors, our other relatives who we think they're doing better than us, and they got it going on. Why do I have to struggle all the time? And
Hmm.
all of that. No, find a place of contentment in your own life. Learn how to be content with where you are and what you have, and then you will help to quiet that critic,
Hmm.
because you comparing yourself to somebody else is going to only throw logs on the fire of criticism.
That's true. That's true. Because now you're setting yourself to be like that person
Right,
when you will never be that person. You
right,
two guys were made differently. Their
right,
journey is their journey. They have what they have to travel their journey. You have what you had to travel yours.
right. Absolutely.
Make that mistake by looking at other people, believing we should have what they should have. We two separate
Mhm.
people. I should have what I should have. I got what I got because I'm supposed to have it. You have
Right.
what you have because you're supposed to have it to go your way, to travel your journey. And that's the one thing we struggle with.
Mhm.
And that's where a lot of our stress comes from, especially young people, because they all on social media just looking at everybody else. "Oh, I want this life. I don't, you don't know what
Mhm.
he had to give up or he had to give up to have that life. You don't know what
Right.
he went through to be
No.
where they are. It's a reason why they have it, and it's a reason why their life is going the way it is.
Right.
You weren't created to live everyone else's life. You were created to live your life
Right.
that looks like.
Right.
You'll find yourself in a whole lot of trouble running behind others and coveting. And that's something the Bible talks about too, is you shouldn't covet someone
Yes.
else's things.
Absolutely.
So you got to be careful because it can bring a lot of trouble to
Hmm.
life when you do something like that. So
Yeah.
you definitely got to stay away from comparison.
Yes.
Not a good thing. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard because you have social media, so which makes it worse.
Right.
You
But
know.
they have to remember, adults and kids,
Hmm.
remember that social media is only a snippet of somebody's life.
That is so true. That is so true. So many people's lives have been uncovered.
Yes.
You thought was going on. And next thing you know, in the news is the real story. You know what I
The
mean?
real story.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Behind the curtain.
right behind the curtain, somebody snatched snatched that curtain down and said, ah,
Right.
y'all got some stuff going on behind here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, this was good conversation. Good
Absolutely.
conversation. And I'm going to ask you, Miss Sheila. Now, you covered a lot of these talking points in here. I want to ask you, well, first I want to say is that to everybody, there's a power in speaking out loud.
Yes.
Speak what it is that's bothering you. Speak to yourself about what's going on. Ask yourself the questions. Why am I feeling this way? What am I getting out of this? And all that stuff. You have to have a conversation within. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that, like Miss Sheila said, you are being self-aware. You are checking in with yourself to see that everything is okay and that you're making the right decisions. Is
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. You're open to positive energy. You're opening yourself up to the possibility of making change, positive change in your life. So
Mhm.
saying it out loud to yourself, or even talking to a therapist, a counselor. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you're crazy. That means you just need someone else to hear you out. So you can let it out really, what
Right.
you're thinking, and you feel better once it's out there and you let it out how you truly
Mhm.
feel, then you can deal with it. But I want to ask you, Sheila, do you have some things, some tips, possible resources for people in this
Mhm.
who are struggling with the inner critic and can't seem to kind of shake
Mhm.
it off?
Well, as we close our conversation, and I thank you so much, Erica, for having me on tonight, because I know it's your initial podcast. So I'm so honored to be on with you tonight as you start your journey. And I know it's going to be a fantastic journey. I know it's only going to get better and better. I hope that somewhere as we come around uh, the circle again, that I can be on again. Um, but
Yes,
I've so enjoyed this conversation because it's been so insightful. I've learned from you, and I hope you and your audience have learned from me.
yes, I
Um,
definitely.
but the closing words I want to leave with our audience is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, the same grace that you extend to others. Please extend it to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't allow your inner critic and the narrative that people have spoken to you or about you or even over you to become the last word, because it's not. Jeremiah 29:11, which is my life scripture, says that God has a plan for you. And so that scripture gives me so much hope, even during difficult periods in my life, knowing that this difficulty shall pass and God's plan will ultimately take precedence in my life and in your life. And the resource that I'd like to offer to you tonight is there's a book called Your Inner Critic is a Big Jerk by an author, Danielle Krysa. Her last name is spelled Krysa. And it's comical, it's humorous, and it's insightful. And so it will teach you how to laugh at yourself and how to see yourself beyond the picture that other people have painted of you. So I'd like to thank you again, Erica, for our conversation tonight.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I appreciate it. I said it was always, it was a pleasure having you on. I appreciate you so, so, so much. I really do. I appreciate you. Just so you guys know, Miss Sheila over here has talked me off a mini cliff, something going on and I'm freaking out and I'm going off, I go right to the phone and say, I'm calling Sheila, or I send her a text message. Sheila will either jump on the phone, she won't even text me back. She has jumped on the phone and called me right away, or she will text me and say, I'm available now. You want to talk? I'm available now. Always love Miss Sheila. Miss Sheila, I appreciate
Thank
you so
you.
much. And I thank you so much for being on. And of course, I will have you if you want to be on again and again and again and again. So we're going to talk about it. But before we go, I wanted to leave, our listeners, whoever watches this video, with an affirmation and a Bible scripture. So the
Yes.
affirmation that I have is I am allowed to be a work in progress and still be enough.
Mm.
And the Bible scripture, which is a well-known Bible scripture, Psalm 139:14. And I know you know. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your
Yes.
works are wonderful. I know that full well. So I wanted
Amen.
to leave you guys with that, and also a gentle reminder for everybody. You are worthy even on your hardest days. You may
Yes.
not always get it perfect. You're not always going to get it right, but it doesn't mean that you are worth any less than who you are right now. So we want to leave you with that, and we're going to say farewell, and we will see you soon again. And thank
Yes.
you so much for tuning into this podcast. Thank you again, Miss Sheila. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
we
for having
are
me.
out. See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.